So I wanted to start out by asking you to introduce us to your short film, Life Goes On.
Yeah, do you want, yeah, me? Life Goes On is a dark comedy short film. It's a comedy drama. We're playing at Rain Dance. Tomorrow is our UK premiere. And it's about a man who's 84. He's called Bill, and he's in an end-of-life care hospice. He's a little bit miserable, doesn't really want to be there anymore. And unfortunately for him, the day keeps restarting because he's stuck in an infinite time loop. So it's about mortality, it's about family, and it's about vulnerability as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a super beautiful film because all of that like really comes through. It's such a blend of different nuances and emotions. It was a really lovely watch. Um, I wanted to start also by asking, I know you guys both specialize in writing like comedy especially, so I was wondering what sort of inspired the idea for this short.
It was a comedic idea that inspired it originally.
Hmm.
So I used to work in a hospice before I was a filmmaker, and I always thought it would make a funny short or sketch or something if there was a man who was being visited on his fi in his final days by guests who he really didn't want to see and who were just there for themselves, basically to say they paid their respects when actually he doesn't really he doesn't really want them there.
It
Um,
was kind of the idea of people selfishly going to someone's deathbed for their own reasons rather than for the other person's reasons.
Yeah.
And Kat told me that idea years ago now, like literally years ago. And I always found it very funny, but to kind of make that well, it's quite expensive because you still have to get the location and everything like that. So I kind of, in a way, kiboshed the idea a little bit and kind of said that's a really funny joke, but like crazy expensive
Yeah.
for one joke. Then we kept thinking about it more. You had a few other ideas, bit about families and kind of being emotionally vulnerable in families. And then that was another idea you had, but we couldn't quite work out how to
Hmm.
formulate that into a story. And then we decided, because David Bradley, who plays Bill in this, who's an absolute legend, we had kind of attached him to another project, a feature film we were trying to get off the ground a few years ago.
Hmm.
And we just got a little bit fed up of things not moving forward. So we're just like, let's make a short film and we know we can get to David Bradley.
Yeah.
So let's that can be our parameters for where we want to go. So instantly Kat was just like, what about the guy who everyone keeps visiting on his deathbed? And I was really like, I mean, yeah, that's like funny, but just funny. And then as we kept going, kept developing it further, we again, I can't really take much credit for it, but Kat kind of combined those two other ideas with a time loop thing. Kind of, we were out for a run one day, and she kind of ran up to me once we had finished the run, being like, "What if he's stuck in the same day and he
Mm.
can't die?"
and the same visitors over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, yeah, it was when the time loop idea came to me that suddenly it all made sense
And
and all
then
the
you,
elements
you kind
came
of said
together.
that to me, and I laughed kind of instantly. I was just like, "Oh, that's really dark.
Yeah.
That's like a really inappropriate jumping off point for a story." So I was in from
We
the
thought it was quite an audacious sounding premise, which
Mm.
really excited us because we also get really excited when something feels really original, like no one's ever done it. Because often when you're a comedy writer, you'll find that everyone's already done every
everything's done
idea.
everything. Yeah, the
Yeah.
amount of times we've written stuff or have an idea to write something, and then you read in Deadline that that exact film has been made, or you make a comedy sketch, and then an American TV show makes exactly the same one 6 months later, and like it's not copying. And literally, that happened to us a few times. And it's not
Parallel
copying; it's
thinking.
just parallel thinking. It's
Yeah.
so
So we
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 were
got really
quite confident
excited.
with those three elements
Yeah,
that we were onto something quite original.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
and
like you say, we came from comedy, and this felt like a good step towards something a bit with a bit more emotional pull to it because we want to do that in our work more, and we want to go into features, and we want to make sure that we've always got an emotional core to our work. So we didn't want to just make an extended sketch because we've done that lots of times now.
so then to come out the gates and say, "Oh, we've made a short film," and it just be a 10-minute sketch, didn't really feel like a step forward. But the more we spoke about this, we realized that it was as we said, we jumped, as you mentioned, we did jump in at comedy, and
Mm.
that's kind of where originally it was just a funny idea, and then actually what it's evolved to become is, if anything, we reined in the comedy a bit in the edit. Like we have funnier takes, we have funnier jokes,
Mm.
especially because Matt Berry was very nice to us and agreed to appear. You know, when you let him improvise, you're going to get some incredibly funny jokes.
Yeah.
But we were a little bit like, I think these are like too funny that it's actually hard to pivot back to the other bits.
Yeah.
So, you know,
We had to find that balance
yeah. And that was
between the
one of the
two.
hardest bits in the edit was kind of going like, oh no, almost reining in the kind of comedy side of us to be
Mm.
like, you're not just playing for laughs now.
Mm,
You're
Yeah.
playing for emotion and story and heart and stuff like that.
mm.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's such a difficult. I think in a lot of comedy innately there can be tragedy, and
I
I
think there
think
should
it's
be. I think it's the
yeah,
best there.
I completely agree because I think it adds like impetus to the funniness for sure. And I was wondering, I read that David Bradley said he read the script and it like hit him right between the eyes. I was wondering sort of how you managed to toe that line between comedy and tragedy that kind of drew him into the project because it sounded like it was difficult, you know.
I think we found it
Mm.
harder in the edit. Would you agree? I think at
Um,
script stage,
yeah, the script came together fairly quickly once we knew
once
the
you had kind of had your epiphany.
yeah, and then Dan's brilliant at structuring, and he really was like, I think we should structure like this, and this is the moment where, he makes friends with his bedmate,
Mm,
Lizzie, and that was all. It came together fairly
We got
easy, and we.
once Kat came up with the idea, it only took us maybe a day and a half to kind of get the script.
mm,
Mm,
And because we wanted to just know whether David would even be key, like up for doing a short film because he's a big actor.
yeah.
He's basically fitting us in around Guillermo del Toro projects at this point.
Mm,
So we basically wrote something that looked a lot like the film and was just like, and we were like, oh, that's pretty good. We like that. Why don't we just send it to him and say, would you like to be in a film that's a bit like this? And
mm.
then he signed on literally the next day, which was great. And then the ball started rolling. And we did do some more redrafts, but I don't think it was really about the comedy per se. I think we had the comedy down,
mm,
but it was about the character
Yeah,
and the emotion and stuff like
I
that.
think it
Would you
was
agree?
just, yeah, it was just a case of being really real with it and people talk in a very real way. And we used a lot of, say, our own family members and the things that they might say,
yeah,
or things we've heard. Um, and when we did the visitors, they in the script they're much longer, um, and we trimmed it way back in the edit.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to
Which
get
was the
the
hardest thing
feel.
because all of them were so funny.
mm,
Yeah,
It
yeah,
probably just ended up being extra YouTube content eventually.
yeah.
It's something Kat just mentioned there about everything being really real. When I think what we found, and we found this, so we had a sketch show, a Comedy Central show called Modern Horror Stories, which had really big premises, and then we played everything really seriously, and that
yeah,
was kind of how we like to do it. It was kind of similar in this, in the
Mm,
sense that because we had this kind of, you know, I don't know how, whatever you'll call it, over the top premise of this kind of time loop, we knew that we had to play that really, really real
mm.
mm,
because otherwise you're kind of going wacky with wacky and the tone just kind of
yeah,
just feels a bit almost desperate.
yeah,
Whereas we kind of like it when you kind of, if you've got something very real, you can really play it up, play it up. Or if you've got something that's really not real, you've got to kind of bring it down to real. And then
yeah,
you kind of get that balance is quite,
Mm.
quite fun.
Yeah, yeah. I think also having worked in a hospice and seeing the kind of conversations that might go on,
We lent on
yeah, we
more
learned a little
expertise a
bit.
bit.
So it was, yeah, getting that balance was always just about making sure it was really real and authentic. I think that's how we achieved the
Yeah.
balance. Yeah.
Something Kat's always quite keen to point out is when she says she worked in a hospice, she worked in the fundraising side of the hospice, not the caring side of the hospice. She's worried that people are going to think she's this
Yes.
absolutely incredible, you know,
No,
person who's a nurse when
I was the guy with the camera, basically, that
Okay.
you line up and take a picture.
Yeah,
So she did
No.
she did work, you're not lying, she did work in a hospice, but just to clarify.
yeah, no, I'm glad
Um,
I'm glad I had that cleared up because I was actually going to ask about that. So I'm glad you told me. I'm glad you told me now. Um, I was wondering because, like, obviously you guys have worked as a partnership, and obviously it really comes through when you talk about your creative process. What was it like being a creative duo making this film? I know obviously you've worked on so many things before, but specifically this film, what was that like?
Yeah, it was, I
I,
mean, it was
I mean, I could
really,
talk a little bit
yeah,
about
you go
that
for it.
because our evolution as a partnership, we started, and I was kind of a scrappy indie filmmaker, YouTuber, and got a job at Comic Relief, and Kat was in marketing at Comic Relief.
Right.
But we were both uh, doing at film school, doing writing in different years. I had heard about Kat because she had got the top grade in her class, and she had heard about me just because I was making comedy stuff and she wanted to make comedy stuff. But when we started, I was like a producer director, and Kat wanted to be involved. And then over the years, it's kind of evolved more where Kat started producing with me, but I was still the director.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was kind of during the pandemic when, in a way, I kind of got a little bit fed up of kind of explaining that we write and produce together, but I'm the director. It almost made me feel arrogant. And at the same time, I was just like, when we were working on set, we if Kat had an idea, because we wrote it together and Kat was just like, oh, maybe it should be a bit more like this, I'd just be like, oh, just go and tell them, you know, you do it. So I was a bit like, you know what, let's just direct together because I think you would be a great director. And you're a bit hesitant because you know, it's a bit scary because of like cameras and lights and all these things. It's almost like there's a barrier of entry in terms of knowledge. And I was
Hmm.
just like, well, I've got all that, but you've got comedy and you've got story and you've got emotion and character. So just get involved, and then I'm the safety net. Over the years, we've developed that quite a lot with
Hmm.
like in advertising, and we kind of worked a bit more as the two of us. And then this, I would say, is kind of because it's such a personal, as I said, the idea came from Kat. I can't take credit for that. And Kat worked in hospice. It felt like this one more than ever. It was like, you know, really, it's probably our best collaboration in that
Yeah.
sense, in terms of gone are the kind of like I'm the director and Kat's like learning to be a director. This one it was like full on like, oh no, we found our rhythm, I found. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, one thing I've always been confident in is talking to actors.
Yeah.
And with this one, it was such a nice experience being able to talk to David Bradley and Laura Checkley, who play father and daughter,
Yeah.
and to go into what those scenes would look like. And we didn't have rehearsal time, but on set, as other things were being filmed, I would be rehearsing with
Mm.
them, as Dan was doing other bits.
Or mainly when I was setting stuff up. So we
Yeah,
kind of, for this, because with every short film, you never have enough time or enough money or enough anything.
Yeah.
So we were basically trying to fit like 6 days of filming into 3 days. And to do that, we really lent on the fact that there was two of us.
yeah.
So, for example, Kat would go off and rehearse, and I'd set up and kind of almost shot, block it with the DOP, and then Kat would come in and bring the actors in, and then the scene would just be ready. And it was just about marrying those two things up, which was, from my point of view, if I was still just a solo director, it literally would have taken me either twice as long or been half as good.
Right.
There's no way around that, unfortunately, because you either have time to really get into the characters or you have time to really get into the shooting of it.
Yeah.
Also, we were
And
quite ambitious with the shooting of it, and we do
that's
all these, we've got the steady cam going around and doing the freeze frame moment and things like that. And it really helped to have two of us because you would, in between takes, you would be adjusting what the camera was doing basically, and I would be going in and telling the actors what they needed to alter for the next take. So it was so good to have two of us on that. I don't know how
I
I
don't know
could
how
have
I
done it
don't know how we would have done. And
with one
also, I
person.
don't, having now formed like, especially with this one, I have no interest in going back to solo directing. It feels like I would be playing with like, half a squad if it was a sports metaphor. Um, but that's kind of it feels like we really found our rhythm on this. So it was
Yeah.
kind of I think it's the best thing we've done, and I don't think that's a surprise that it's also
Mm.
the most together, or the most 50-50 it was.
Mm.
Yeah,
We
no,
also have like a two-tick system
We did
on our writing and on set as well. If we
casting and every
if we're
stage.
both happy, then we can move on. And if there's something niggling one
Yeah.
of us,
I
then
mean,
we'll
it can
get
be
another take.
infuriating.
It can it
It
can
can be
take
really annoying when you're sure of something and I'm not sure, or
yeah.
often I'm sure of something and you're not sure.
But we'll basically just get another
But
take
in
or
our experience, if you don't listen to that,
yeah.
you will always be you always regret it. So we kind of
Mm.
have.
yeah, no, of course. And I think, like, with so many people I've spoken to for Rain Dance who've made short films, like, clearly so many elements have to come together in such a short time for things to work. And I think, obviously, like, if your partnership is that strong in it and you can both kind of share the weight of making this film, then obviously it's going to be a really strong project. And I was wondering also, like, the cast that you have is part of that and is incredibly strong. You have people like you mentioned, like Matt Berry and Maggie Steed and David Bradley, of course. I was wondering what that casting process was like, because yeah, I mean, I imagine getting David Bradley was like a absolutely incredible moment for both of you.
Yeah. I
It,
mean it all started with David, so we wrote it for David. I don't think we would have made it if he hadn't said yes. It was so specifically written for him. We had him in our heads as we were
because
writing
the
it.
thing about David is, and he won't mind us saying this, because of the roles he's played, he's kind of known for being an asshole.
Yeah.
He just is,
But
and
we love him for his comedy role.
he's so funny and so sweet, and he has this face that can play both of. He can be menacing and intimidating and grumpy and
And
all of,
funny.
and but then he can also be funny and
Yeah.
sweet and kind and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we kind of made it our mission to be like, how many sides of one actor can we show in,
In one short film.
in one short film?
Yeah.
Um, and then kind of we do have an amazing casting director who, if you recognize, is called Fran Bradley. So you might understand why we got to David Bradley. But she's an old friend of mine from university, and we're working with her on loads of projects that don't involve her dad. But she's kind of instrumental. But once we got David on board, I would say every door was open to us. So David kind of he's such a respected actor that he messaged Maggie. Well, actually, he asked us, he said, Maggie, I've known for 50 years and we haven't worked together in 40.
Right.
I would love to work with her. Do you think she'd be good for this? And we were like, if you think we can get Maggie Steed, then 100%. She's incredible. And then, yeah, that would you agree? David
Yeah,
opened the door.
so then there was some other cast that we'd worked with before, like Mark Davison, who plays the very boring visitor. We've worked with him before in our Comedy Central series.
Same
And
with Paul G. Raymond.
Paul G. Raymond was in our Comedy Central series, who is the fundraiser with the camera.
Yes.
And Joe DaCosta, who plays the guitar, I've known for many years as well, way back from when I did NFTS, and we did like a read through of our final projects, and
Yeah,
he was one
first
of the
time working
actors.
with him, but he was
Yeah. So then Matt Berry was the other like crazy big coup that we got and we didn't think we would get, but that role we were also going to use one of our actors we'd used many times before,
Mm.
and he had to drop out. So this is the role of Dave. He's trying to get Bill's motorbike from him. And the actor that we were intending to cast in it had to drop out about 10 days before,
Oh.
and we had to then think about who we wanted.
in a massive panic because we were just like, it was so written for him.
Mm.
And then the charity Movember, who we've worked with for the last few years,
Yeah.
called us and said, would you like to do a video with us? And we were like, I don't think we can because we're 2 weeks out from filming this short film. And then they went, oh, that's a shame. It's with Matt Berry. And we were just like, okay,
We're,
I think we could probably do
we're
it.
huge fans of his.
Huge fan.
Huge fans. He's hilarious.
When we said yes, it wasn't to try and get him in our film.
No, we were
This
just
was just we
fans.
thought it'd be fun to be in a room with him. We thought
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're gonna regret it if we don't say yes to this.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
But then at some point when I think I
when the other
said to
person,
you,
yeah,
should we ask him to
and I
play
was like,
Dave?
that would be ridiculous. A, he'll say no, and B, it's Matt Berry. He'll pull so much focus. And,
And then I kind of said, so
yeah, yeah.
very, let's just ask him.
And
And
then on
so
set, we just got on with him really well. He was a really nice guy.
Mm.
And we just thought, Kat was just like, we should ask him. Um,
then we went and
so we
asked him
did. So we
at
went
the
and
end of,
asked him, and
yeah,
I think he respected us asking. He loved David Bradley, and what was kind of crucial is that we had a set day that we were filming.
Mm.
We kind of said we're filming on this day
with David
with David
Bradley.
Bradley. Can you do it? We'll send you a script. If you like the script, do it. If you don't like the script, don't.
Yeah.
So it
And
was a moving, it was an actual thing happening, which I
I
think
think
helped.
if we had said, "Would you like to be in a short film one day?" He'd have been like, "Oh, not
Yeah.
really," because we were just like, "This is happening on Thursday."
And it's acting alongside David Bradley. You're acting opposite David Bradley, who he hadn't worked with before, and
He hadn't met.
he said he really loved David Bradley.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped. And then he obviously we sent him the script afterwards, and he said he was very busy at the time, but he said if you can get me in and out, I'll do it. And so we got him in and
You,
out in an hour.
yeah, it was the
And
best scheduling we've ever done.
we were very organized to make
Yeah.
sure we get him in it. Um, and yeah, such a coup to get
Yeah,
that. Yeah, for
he
an hour of his
he
time.
basically did a favor to two people he doesn't owe a favor to.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it's great. And then yeah, we just surrounded it. Jane Aguirre, who I think's really lovely in this. She's someone we met at some networking events, and we knew as an actress. And to be honest, you meet so many people at networking events, you kind of forget who they are.
Yeah.
But we
And
remembered she had this really warm,
lovely warmth about her.
yeah. So we thought, oh, who was that person we met? And then we
And it took us
found,
about half a day to remember her name.
yeah.
Like we were walking, we were out for a walk, being like, "What? Who was that girl? She would be perfect for it. But I don't know who she was." And then randomly the name came back to us. Yeah.
Jane.
So then we messaged her on Instagram because we happened to follow it. We followed each other.
Yeah.
And just said, "Oh, would you do a tape for us?" And then we were so glad we remembered her name. And she was lovely. So yeah, it was really yeah, it was great. Like we're really glad that we found and got a chance to work with people we wanted to work with, like Brona.
But then new people we'd never worked with, like Amanda Root,
Oh yeah,
who's plays Judith.
she's the
Um,
mum in Baby Reindeer.
yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she,
Of course.
yeah, so
Yeah,
she's got an amazing career. I think she's a
Tony
Tony
nominee.
nominee. Yeah. And we didn't know her at all, but Fran, our casting director, said
I feel like Amanda would be
I
good for
think
this.
Amanda would be great for this, and she
Yeah.
was brilliant.
But what was true across the board, from like top to bottom, from David and Matt and Maggie and Amanda, down to people we'd never worked with before, um, it was completely egoless, which we found, which was really nice.
Mm.
There's no there's no spoils when it comes to a short film. We basically had a hospital waiting room that served as a green room. And you'd walk in there and it would just be everyone would be talking, everyone would be like getting on with it. It was really nice, a nice vibe. You had people who are just starting their acting career talking to David Bradley, who's, been going for 50, 60 years, and getting advice. And it was just really it was really nice because I think if we had to deal with like, yeah, egos or something, I think
Yeah.
those 3 days would have got really, really tight. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, I think the fact that you had such like a rich like breadth of people really added to the story. I mean, I remember watching Matt Berry in IT Crowd when I was growing up, and he's brilliant. Um, and I was wondering, I was so curious to know about your influences when I watched it, because obviously I love films, and I was kind of getting obviously like Groundhog Day, and then I was kind of getting like It's a Wonderful Life, like George Bailey. I was getting a lot of that, and I was wondering, like alongside sort of the life affirming things, was there any sort of big like comedic movie influences that you kind of drew on for this?
I mean,
Interesting. We definitely watched all the time loop films, which
yes.
this way. So we watched Palm Springs, which is great.
Yes, that's a great one.
Yeah, which I
Yeah.
think is brilliant.
We
Top
were
of tiny things.
Map of Tiny, yeah, however that's called.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. Forgotten the name of it though, but it's very nice.
Yeah,
Groundhog Day, all of those kinds of things.
Mm.
So they were just to kind of almost learn the rules of it a little bit because we'd never written one before.
Yeah.
A big influence for me always is Little Miss Sunshine.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, brilliant film.
I think it kind of, for me, it's the feeling you have at the end,
Yeah.
which is I refer to it as happy sad.
Yeah.
where it's technically a happy ending, like because we all feel good at the end. But if you actually look at it, it's a sad ending because everybody loses
Yeah.
everything. But for some reason, it feels hopeful and it feels joyous and stuff like that. That was a touch point for this
Yeah.
because it's a sad ending in many ways, but we
Mm.
definitely didn't want it to feel like a sad ending. We wanted it to feel, yeah, hopeful. And it's a really
Mm.
sad setting, a hospice
Yeah.
ending of care. So a big thing for us was just like, how do we do that, but it feel like, you know, a big warm hug
Mm.
of a film.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And in like other short film terms, I guess we watched things like Irish Goodbye, and that had this very um sweet and warm, but also very dark comedy
Yeah,
Mm.
vibe to it.
fantastic.
Yeah, so we really enjoyed that one.
And then, I mean, we're just big film watchers and comedy watchers. So, I mean, we could go as far back as Judd Apatow movies about how, you watch a film because it's called The 40-Year-Old Virgin and it ends up being about so much more than
Yeah.
that. It's those kinds of things. I think that kind of mentality of
Mm.
like, you can lure someone in with a big premise, but you got to give them more. Seth Rogen always refers to it as the difference between plot and story.
Mm.
We think about that quite a lot. So yeah,
Mm.
it's lots and lots of influences. I think this one's obviously Groundhog Day, but
Yeah, we thought a little bit about Everything Everywhere All at Once as
yeah,
well.
I see that. I see that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And then a tiny bit Edgar Wright as well, the way some
Yeah.
of some
Yeah.
of our kind
yeah.
of camera moves. Um,
A general rule of thumb is if you get influenced by enough things, no one can tell where you're taking it from.
Yeah.
Um, so,
That's true.
because also, some of our favorite filmmakers are people like, the Duplass brothers,
Mm.
who are polar opposite of say Edgar Wright and Everything Everywhere All at Once. One
Yeah.
is completely stripped away, really pure, barely scripted, you know, that kind of directing where the camera is way in the background. You don't want to even notice anything they're doing with the camera.
Yeah.
Whereas Edgar Wright is like drawing attention to what he does with the camera.
Yeah.
which we did in certain
And I would
moments.
say our films kind of tries to straddle that line where we've got
Mm.
some moments where it's really, you know, Duplass Brothers-esque, where it's like we're just trying to be there and capture a moment. And
Yeah.
then we have other moments where it's like, oh no, you're going to see what we're doing with the camera in this bit.
Yeah, a bit more stylized.
Yeah, or see what we're doing with the editing or something like that.
Another one we referenced was Worst Person in the World because of the freeze frame moment.
Yeah,
So we looked at that for that moment
because
and
that's
how they
another
did it.
interesting one where they've managed to marry realism with hyperrealism, kind
Yeah.
of in a way that I probably like if I hadn't really seen done really as well as that,
Mm.
but it was what we kind of strive to do.
Yeah, of course.
So
And
yeah,
yeah,
so
I see all those
across the board.
influences. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really see
Yeah, a
as
lot.
soon as you mentioned Little Miss Sunshine, I really see that because it gives you that feeling that you get at the end for sure.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's lots of influences, but I think it's quite, apart from the obvious Groundhog Day one, which will obviously be referenced a lot because it's the most famous time loop one.
yeah.
There's quite a lot
Yeah.
of different connotations.
A lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally see that, and I think as soon as you mentioned Edgar Wright, like the loops from when like Bill was waking up in the morning, that editing style really feels like Edgar Wright. So I really see all those, and I think it's good that you have such like a wide reference board because they really they really add to kind of the genres of the film. And I was gonna ask I've written in the past about how coming of age films don't have to be based in sort of teenage stories. They can be like later in life. And
yeah,
I was
our
watching this and it
favorite thing.
really, this film really feels like a sort of coming of age moment for Bill. And I was wondering if that's something that came into play when you were creating this film.
That's such a good observation because it's funny because we write about coming of age a lot. I
Mm,
don't know if we'd
And
even consider this one
I
as
don't think we
that,
do,
but
but I
you're
think
so right.
it's a theme of a lot of our work
Yeah.
is technically they're coming of age stories, but they're never, I don't think we've ever written one about, say, like a 16-year-old.
yeah.
Even though I love, like Submarine, that kind of movie, those brilliant movies, we've never really written like, I guess traditional
yeah.
Mm.
coming of age
We like
film like that.
a stunted coming of age where
Yes,
it's later on.
which is how
Yeah.
we feel. Like it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm late 30s and I feel like I still need to come of age in many ways.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
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 yeah.
it's interesting that you say that actually, because yeah, on our desktop there's quite a lot of coming of age stories, but none of them happen in those traditional years.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, I think they can often be so much more than just like, yeah, someone like physically reaching like a certain age. Like I wrote
Yeah,
about like A Matter of Life and Death, the Powell and Pressburger film, and I wrote about how that was a
I haven't
coming of
seen that.
age.
I
Yeah,
actually haven't seen that.
it's a brilliant film, and it is a coming of age story because it is literally like someone learning what the
Mm.
meaning of life is. And I think I kind of get that from this as well. And I think yeah, they can totally be non-traditional in the sense of it's not just like a teenager going through like heartbreak or something really difficult. So yeah, it really felt like that when I watched it.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's really good to
yeah,
hear. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even
it
thought.
doesn't surprise me at all that that theme has
I
snuck its
know.
way into another film of ours.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just end up writing the same thing over and over again, but in different ways.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm the same.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was going to direct this question to Kat before I found out that she wasn't in the nursing side of hospice.
Will do.
But I mean, no, I was wondering more generally, like, did making this film have an impact on you? Because I think we have such a weird relationship with aging now. I think we always kind of do as humans, but I think especially in this day and age, we have such a weird relationship with the fragility and the issues that come with aging. So I was wondering, like, if like obviously this is confronting a difficult subject matter, but in quite a light-hearted way for the most part. But I was wondering, yeah, did it have an impact on you? Because obviously watching it, as funny as it is, obviously you start to think about the realities of like losing an elderly relative or getting old yourself. So yeah, I was wondering if it had an impact on you.
It kind of was quite cathartic for me, really, because my dad is ill at the moment, and so I'm putting a lot of that into that.
Yeah.
I've had relatives pass away recently, and one of the reasons why we could fund this film is because both of us had relatives pass away, and we got some inheritance. We put that into a short film.
We refer to them as our angel investors. But,
Yeah.
but literally, this film wouldn't have been, ironically, wouldn't have been made without death. So,
Yeah.
so there is a kind of a weird
Yeah.
duality there.
Yeah. So it's nice to be able to put all of these feelings and um yeah, kind of even worries and everything you're feeling about family and the things that you should say to each other or can't say for whatever reason to put that into a piece of work. It's the most personal thing I've ever written for sure.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, and I was one of those very lucky people who I had three grandparents until like the last 2 or 3 years. Like they all reached
Wow.
until like 100 and late 90s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then they kind of dropped off really quickly
mm,
from there, understandably. But it was a kind of like, it was a topic that was kind of very, with Kat's dad,
yeah,
your great uncle, my grandparents.
yeah,
It was quite prevalent in our life at the time,
yeah,
where
yeah.
we were losing people quite quickly, and
Mm.
we were constantly confronted with it when we visit
hmm
Kat's parents.
Yes, and also I lost a granddad in a hospice as well, so I think I was drawing on some of that as well.
Yeah.
There are bits of his character, a little bit of my granddad, a little bit of my dad, a little bit of um,
Just what we want to see David do. Yeah.
what would be funny said by David. So, in terms of affecting me, I think only in a positive way because I was able to get some of that out. And then since showing it to people, it's been so amazing to have people come up to us after screenings and say how much they were moved by it, and that's still shocking us every time we hear
Yeah.
that.
People message, like email
Or
us or
messaging
send us a
us.
message and stuff like that. I've
Yeah.
Yeah.
had quite a few of those, and it's
Yeah, people are relating it to their
yeah,
own family. They're saying, I had even it could even be a mum, or like it doesn't even have to be a male relative.
someone messaged us who worked in the care system
Yeah, yeah,
and stuff like that. So it's really nice because also when you're used to making literally comedy sketches, you know, the best you're going to get is people will say, "Oh, that made me laugh,"
Yeah.
and that's great. Don't get me wrong, I love that. That's a really lovely thing to hear.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of is new for us. Would
It's
you agree?
new and it's really nice, and it's kind of maybe ignited something in us that makes us want to do that again.
Arrange for more connection.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, I think it's really beautiful that you could put such a difficult experience into this film and ultimately create something so beautiful out of it. I think like the best art comes from the difficult stuff in my opinion. But like, yeah, I mean, like, I can also totally relate. Like, I've got two very elderly grandparents, and they've been in and out of hospital. So like, when I was watching it, it's like it's hard because you're confronted with the reality of that. Like, I wasn't necessarily seeing it every day, but like you are confronted with the reality of that. But also, like, I don't know, the happy moments that can still come from such difficult situations. I think it's so beautiful.
That's one of the things Kat always said about hospices in general.
Yeah, they're always depicted as this really horrible doom and gloom, depressing place. And actually, having worked in one, they're actually really nice places. They're full of really caring nurses and staff, and there's a lot of warmth and joy and laughter in them as well that you don't expect.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a positive portrayal of a hospice that wasn't just all doom and gloom. I wanted to have a feeling of hope at the end of it, and it was really important to me to have, say, the nurse. There's a moment where he kind of notices everything the nurse is doing for him, and he appreciates it and says, "Thank you for all you do."
Yeah.
Um, and that was really important to me to have that in there, just to show how amazing the nurses are that work in hospices. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
can't remember the question now.
No, no.
You answered it, don't worry. No, I mean it's really beautiful because like yeah, I had two grandparents pass away in the hospice, and I obviously I never went because I was such a small child, but like I always pictured it as like the most awful, a lonely place to be. So I think like watching this and you bringing your experience and so much like happiness and joy into such a depressing space, even if Bill was pretty resistant at first, it was really, yeah, it was really unexpected, but in a really lovely way.
I
For sure.
think you said, yeah, you said it there and saying a lonely place to be. What we were trying to show is the connection that you can get.
Yeah.
We've got people trying to connect with him all day long. We've got
Yeah.
all these people
Some for the right reasons, some for the wrong reasons.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
And he's making himself lonely, but he doesn't have to be. He just needs to let people in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in saying that it's a lonely place, that's exactly what we're trying to show the opposite of. It's actually if you allow yourself to open yourself up to connection,
Mm.
then it doesn't have to be lonely.
Would you say that's sort of the main message that you want people to take away from this?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Being able to be emotionally vulnerable is probably one of those, which is again another thing we write about quite a lot, but
Yeah.
it's something that you realize connection happens kind of on the other side of embarrassment.
Yeah.
And as you know, humans, we're all desperately trying to protect ourselves from embarrassment and things like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, to get to the good stuff, you kind of have to be willing to, you know, shed a couple of layers to kind of let people in. And I think that's something we write about quite often. And it's definitely the case in this. It's that kind of allowing yourself to like drop the front for a bit,
Yeah, of course.
maybe show joy or show fear or show, you know, yeah, vulnerability.
Yeah, no, I think that's something we really need to hear a lot of more right now. So I think that's really beautiful. And then to kind of wrap this up, I was wondering like what's next for you both, because I know you must be very busy, and then obviously you've got Rain Dance and the premieres. It's probably stacking up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have 3 screenings at Rain Dance.
which is great.
One of them, David Bradley's attending.
Oh wow, yeah.
That's Tuesday 23rd, and he's doing an In Conversation With event, so In Conversation with David Bradley.
That'd be great. Yeah, that's I'm sure our film will be mentioned maybe once, and it will be largely on Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and
Yeah.
everything like that, and rightly so. So and then in terms of this short, we're very early days in the festival run. So we played at Dallas, which was great. We
Yes.
won an award, which we've
Yeah.
never done before.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's a very new experience for us.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we've only played, this will be our 4th festival.
Yeah.
But we've booked a few more that are coming up.
We can't say them because we can't announce them yet, but we have some more great festivals coming up.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so we're going to obviously see out the life of this film. Hopefully, yeah, you know, enjoy the ride as much as we can. And our goal is to move into features. So we've written like 4 of them. we're, we're currently writing one that we believe we're going to be able to get off the ground. The other 3 will probably too ambitious financially. So
Some are coming of age.
yeah, they're all coming of age at some point. Um, but that's what we're really focusing on is we have a film in particular that we're currently trying to use this short film to show actors that we can, you know, direct a story and not embarrass them. and and hopefully they'll agree to come on another ride with us and make a feature film.
That's
So
so exciting. Yeah.
that's the big thing for us, I think. But
Yeah.
is hoping.
Could you ever see this film going on to being a feature-length film?
Hmm. Interesting.
I know that happens a lot for
It
short
does happen
films.
a
Yeah, I've
lot.
spoken to a few people who that is the goal down the line, so I was wondering.
Yeah, it hasn't been the
It definitely
goal.
wasn't the goal. This
Um,
was seen as a standalone,
yeah,
Okay.
complete story,
yeah,
which I think there's something lovely about kind of just
Yeah.
going using the short film form for that reason, because this story happens to only need, 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah,
90
of course,
minutes.
of course.
But if it came to us one day and we were like, oh, actually, if we, did all this, maybe
Yeah.
there's more legs in it.
mm.
Then I mean, any excuse to work with David Bradley again, I would take.
Of course.
But yeah, we haven't actually had that discussion.
No, it hasn't been the goal.
Mm.
We see it as this is a short film. It's a short, compact story, and you can tell it in 20 minutes. And but yeah, we're not ruling it out in future. But
No,
at the moment, we
Yeah.
have other features that are kind of ready to go. We have scripts for them
Yeah.
ready. We're
we're
excited.
yeah, desperate to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that all sounds really, really exciting, and I wish you all the best of luck for all the festivals that you've got coming up.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
so much. It's been a pleasure.